How's it going, my peeps? It is now time for the Raw results / highlights and review video. I'll go over the Raw results, what happened, some of the highlights in my opinion, and give you guys my thoughts and my review on the show. So it kicks off with Stephanie McMahon coming out. Well, actually, before Stephanie McMahon coming out, they announced that tonight Triple H will be facing off against Axel in a rematch, and they showed footage of Triple H getting his concussion or, not completing the match last time. Stephanie McMahon comes out and says that although Triple H is cleared to compete, as a mother and as a wife, she has decided that Triple H will not compete tonight because, she fears for his well-being and whatever. And the crowd boo. And then Vince McMahon also comes out. He asks the crowd to not boo his daughter and that they care about Triple H a lot more than the crowd does. And pretty much that, he says pretty much the same thing that Stephanie McMahon does, and that Triple H should not compete tonight, and he will not compete tonight. And eventually they get interrupted by The Shield. And during The Shield's entrance, they cut to commercial. Once they come back from commercial, it is now time for a 6-man tag team match. The Shield versus Randy Orton and Team Hell No. And it was a great 6-man tag team match, as most of The Shield's matches anyways. I don't think I've seen a single Shield match that was bad. And, awesome match, and Daniel Bryan is crazy over. The crowd was chanting, yes, 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 and was really loud for Daniel Bryan. They were really, really loud in general for the matchup, but especially for Daniel Bryan. And once Daniel Bryan got that hot tag, he was on fire, beating everybody up, hitting the suicide dive, the top rope drop kick. He locked on the no-lock on Dean Ambrose, but Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns stopped that by interrupting the hold. And then Kane went for a double choke slam on Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And as you all know, the double choke slam almost never works. And so they get out of it. Seth Rollins hits an enziguri on Kane. Randy Orton hits an RKO on Seth Rollins. And then tries to go an RKO hit an RKO on Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns pushes Randy Orton towards Daniel Bryan. So Randy accidentally hits Daniel Bryan. They both fall down. And then Dean Ambrose grabs Daniel Bryan, hits the snapmare driver, whatever it's called, and wins the matchup for his team. After that, there was a backstage segment where it's Kane, Daniel Bryan, and Randy, and Daniel Bryan is like blaming Randy for losing the matchup or whatever. And Randy said, I already apologize, this and that. And it leads to Daniel Bryan once again saying, you guys think I'm the weakling, this and that, you guys don't respect me. And eventually he says, tonight, he's going to earn that respect or whatever, or prove that he's not the weak link by having another match against somebody else and beating the respect out of them or something else. I don't know. Anyways, after that, you have a segment where Triple H is coming into the arena, and he goes into Vince's office where Stephanie and Vince is, and he says he's going to be wrestling Axel tonight. And, Vince and Stephanie try to convince him not to, tell him he's to not do it. Triple H says he's going to do it, and nobody's going to stop him, or he says, actually, who's going to stop me? And then Stephanie goes in between Vince and Triple H, and Vince gives Triple H advice and says, don't do something you'll regret, or something like that. And that was pretty much it. And then the Usos come out to the ring for a tag team match against the PrimeTime Players. The Usos actually end up winning the matchup. I was surprised at that. Usos win with a top rope splash on Darren Young, I believe. The match following that was Big E Langston versus Del Rio in a rematch, a tiebreaker. And Del Rio won the matchup after... Well, Del Rio, during the match, she would lock on the cross arm breaker, but every single time, Big E Langston would power out of it and get up while Del Rio had it locked on. So, in the end, Del Rio turned the cross arm breaker into a roll-up and got the victory. Afterwards, Sheamus faced off against Cody Rhodes with Damon Sandow on commentary. Sheamus wins with the bro kick. Following the matchup, he goes outside the ring where Damon Sandow is on commentary and extends his hand to him so Damon can shake it, but Damon slaps Sheamus' hand away, so Sheamus extends his hand once again. Damon slaps it once again, and then Sheamus slaps him. And he leaves after that. And then you have Triple H backstage with Stephanie, and he's actually leaving. He says he's pissed at Vince McMahon, tried to stop him or whatever. And says, you know what, he's not going to face Curtis Axel tonight. His kids don't have to see their father beat up their grandfather. And then he says next week though he will be facing Curtis Axel, and then he puts his bag in the back of a limo and leaves. Then you see Daniel Bryan backstage and he's kicking stuff around, and Ryback comes up to him and tells him to watch what he's doing or whatever. And Daniel Bryan, pretty much they decide to have a match. Ryback's like, "Did you see what I did to Kofi Kingston? This and that." And Ryback also says, "I had the flu last year, and my throw-ups are bigger than you." Ryback also says he's the weak link, and then after tonight's match, he's going to be the missing link. Then you have Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman. Vince McMahon comes up to them. He shakes Kurt Axel's hand, and he tells them that tonight he's going to be facing John Cena. And that, unlike last week, the match is going to be no disqualification. Fandango then comes out for a matchup against the Great Khali. And Fandango just got out of the ring and left. He didn't want any part of Great Khali. The Miz then comes up on the stage trying to stop Fandango from leaving. Wade Barrett actually comes from behind the Miz and hits the bullhammer elbow on the Miz. They go to commercial. Once they come back, there's actually a matchup, and it's the Miz versus Wade Barrett, non-title matchup. And Fandango came out towards the end to distract Wade Barrett by dancing with Summer Rae, and that allowed the Miz to lock on the figure 4 and make Wade Barrett tap out. So the Miz beats Wade Barrett in a non-title matchup. And then it was time for the contract signing between Chris Jericho and Paul Heyman for the CM Punk versus Chris Jericho match at Payback. And, they talk for a while. Paul Heyman signs, and before Jericho signs, Paul Heyman says, "Are you sure you want to have a match in Chicago, in CM Punk's hometown, where Punk can do no wrong?" And then Chris Jericho thinks about it, then he's like, "Okay, well, how about we do it at SummerSlam?" Paul Heyman says no. Then he says, "How about we do it at Madison Square Garden?" Paul Heyman says no once again. And then Jericho says, "How about right here tonight?" And then Paul Heyman says no once again. So then Jericho says, "Alright, fine, I guess, Chicago's fine." He signs. And then he says, "You see, Paul Heyman, it doesn't matter. When you act like a jackass, you get treated like a jackass." And then Chris Jericho says, "Now, where do we file this contract?" And he takes the contract and then tells Paul Heyman to, get up from his chair and take off his jacket or whatever, or unbutton his jacket. So Paul Heyman does. And then he puts the contract in Paul Heyman's pants and leaves, and that was it for the segment. The Bell Twins and AJ then team up to face off against Kaitlyn and the Funkadactyls. Match ends when AJ Lee decides to ditch the Bell Twins when one of the Bell Twins tried to tag her in, and the other Bell Twin was knocked out on the outside. So the legal Bell Twin, the one that's in the ring, turns around, Kaitlyn hits the spear and wins the matchup. Daniel Bryan and Kane are then backstage, and Kane is trying to convince Daniel Bryan, or he's telling Daniel Bryan that it's not a smart idea to face off against Ryback when he already had a match earlier against The Shield, and that no one thinks he's the weak link, and that he's been in the company for years, and he's never seen somebody with as much desire and fight in him. And Daniel Bryan just, I guess, ignores all that and says no, and that he's going to be facing Ryback or whatever, and he doesn't want to see Kane out there. And Kane says, "I'll do you one better, and I'm gonna leave, and call me when you find your mind," or something like that, because from what it looks like, you lost it. But anyways, Daniel Bryan goes out to the ring. Ryback also goes out to the ring. He actually comes out in the ambulance once again, so some people might think it's actually Scott Steiner returning. I did last week. I thought, oh shit, Scott Steiner's freaking returning, but no. Anyways, it's Ryback. He comes out of the ambulance, and then his music hits. Anyways, the match was actually pretty good, although it ended on a disqualification. In the end, you had Daniel Bryan locking on the no lock on Ryback, but Ryback eventually got to the ropes, and then he took out Daniel Bryan on the outside of the ring. And then he went outside, grabbed the table, put it inside the ring, set it up, and powerbombed Daniel Bryan through the table, and he got disqualified for that. He then went outside, grabbed another table, and he was setting it up on the barricade, the same barricade that always breaks when Roman Reigns spears somebody through it. So he sets that table up, leaning onto the barricade like that. And then John Cena comes out, and he goes in the ring, telling Ryback to come inside the ring so they could fight or whatever. Ryback was about to go in, but Curtis Axel's theme hits, and he comes out for the matchup against John Cena, so Ryback, gets off the apron and leaves through the crowd, actually. So John Cena and Curtis Axel have their matchup. I think the only weapon they really use... Well, they use two weapons, actually. They use a steel chair most of the matchup, and a tablet. Yes, a tablet. And also, actually, a table, I guess you could say, afterwards, in the end. So, Curtis Axel used the chair a lot. John Cena also used the chair. At some point, Curtis Axel actually hit his finisher, the neck breaker, onto the steel chair on John Cena, but John Cena kicked out. And towards the end, they were fighting on the outside. Actually, before that, John Cena had the STF locked on, and Curtis Axel was about to tap out, so Paul Heyman gives him a tablet that he took from the announcer's table, and he takes the tablet and hits John Cena in the head a couple times. That's what causes John Cena to roll out the ring, and that's when Curtis Axel follows him. They fought on the outside. John Cena was about to hit the attitude adjustment on Curtis Axel onto that table, or through that table that was on the barricade. But Paul Heyman was telling him no, not to do it or whatever. So John Cena grabs Paul Heyman, but Curtis Axel tries to stop him. So John Cena punches Curtis Axel, but then Ryback comes back, attacks John Cena, takes him up in a spinebuster position, and runs with him towards the table and puts John Cena through that table. And Curtis Axel goes back in the ring. Referee counts John Cena out and wins the matchup. So Curtis Axel once again beats John Cena by countout. So that was it for the show. What did I think about the show? You know what? I thought it was a decent show. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed the match with the Actually, I enjoyed both Daniel Bryan's matches tonight. Daniel Bryan is super, super over right now, and his matches are really good. The match with the Shield, really enjoyed that, and also the match with Ryback. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as highlights go, I guess Daniel Bryan was the highlight of the night. He was awesome in his matches. And yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, as always, you can click that like button down below. I'd really appreciate it. And with that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.